Fare went up to $1.50 as of midnight.
You're kidding. Well, I've got 97 cents.
No,
Would you just give me a break? I really just want to go home.
I'm sorry. I can't do that. I could lose my job.
Well, who would know exactly?
I could go to a party, get drunk, talk to someone. Who knows?
Hi, welcome to the Bench Movie Club. My name's Charlie.
My name's Ben.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about After Hours from 1985, directed by Martin Scorsese. It was mid-80s, so it was in between King of Comedy and Colour of Money that he directed this. Although he directed this because he couldn't get a studio to back him on Last Temptation of Christ, because it was quite a controversial film. It took him a while to get that, and he was getting disillusioned. Then he came across this, Griffin Dunne, and came to him with it, saying, would you like to do this? And he thought, yeah, well, it sounds quite a fun film to do. So that's why he done it. It follows Paul Hackett, who's a computer guy, puts in numbers. It's just a really boring, mundane job. He goes home one night, and when reading a book in a cafe, he meets a woman, decides to phone her later that night, and next thing you know, he has the worst night of his life, just being stuck in New York trying to get home. So you got Griffin Dunne, plays Paul Hackett. He's from An American Wealth in London, My Girl, Who's That Girl? He was in that episode of Frasier as well, where he's got the
Wheelchair.
The wheelchair, yeah.
Who's he in My Girl?
He's the teacher she fancies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was actually lifelong friends with Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
As well.
I heard that.
Yeah, and he took her virginity.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, like after she asked him to, because she just wanted to get rid of it. Actually, with Frasier as well, him and Linda Hamilton was actually the first guest callers in Frasier. And he's got celebrity
Famous people phone up. Yeah. Okay.
You've also got Rosanna Arquette from Pulp Fiction, Desperately Seeking Susan, Crash. Got Werner Bloom, who's in Animal House, Last Temptation of Christ, High Plains Drifter. She sadly died of dementia in 2019, aged 80.
Who's she?
Werner Bloom. She was the older woman at the end, the one who helped him hide from the...
June?
Yeah.
Right.
You got Cheech and Chong, Tommy Chong and Cheech Marin, who were a famous sort of comedy duo. They had a series of 70s films. Cheech Marin, though, actually went on to do other things like Dusk Till Dawn, Oliver and Company, Lion King, his very distinctive voice. Linda Fiorentino, who went on to be in Men in Black, Dogma, Ordinary Decent Criminal. You got Teri Garr, who was in Tootsie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Young Frankenstein. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1983, and she had a brain aneurysm in 2006. And despite all of this, she continues to work.
She played Phoebe's mum in Friends, didn't she?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. John Heard, who was in Big, Awakenings, Home Alone, Beaches. He died 2017, age 71, of a heart attack. He plays the barman in this.
He's been in quite a few good films, yeah.
Yeah.
Hasn't
Yeah, I like him. He's a good. He's a good actor. Even in this, the characters. We'll get into the film, but the characters in this, he's probably one of the more normal ones in a way. He's actually quite helpful, but it's just unfortunate events means that he then goes after Paul as well. Catherine O'Hara, who of course starred with John Heard in the Home Alone films, was also in Beetlejuice and Schitt's Creek.
Of course, yeah. She's Moira.
Yeah.
Moira Rose.
You got Will Patton, who's in Armageddon, Halloween Kills, Desperately Seeking Susan. Bronson Pinchot, who's in True Romance, Beverly Hills Cop, he plays Sergi in the Beverly Hills Cop films, and First Wives Club. Martin Scorsese has a cameo in it. He was in the nightclub with a searchlight. Did you spot him?
No, I can't.
Oh, well, when he's in the club and he's trying to escape when they're trying to cut his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a guy with a flashlight, with a searchlight. That was
I can't remember.
Okay, and you've also got Dick Miller, who's in Terminator, The Burbs. He was in loads of Roger Corman films, and he was Mr. Futterman in Gremlins 1 and 2. No, the one who gets run over by... He gets killed.
Tractor.
Yeah,
Is it him and his wife in the...
Yeah.
And the tractor comes into him, but I don't think they get killed because I think they're in part 2.
Well, this is it. Part 1, you think, oh, well, they're dead.
They're dead, yeah.
But then they bring them back for part 2.
Yeah.
I really like this film.
Yeah, it's a good film.
It's not like a typical Scorsese film, or what you'd expect from Martin Scorsese.
No.
It's a very sort of dark comedy. There are some very dark moments in it, like with Rosanna Arquette's character killing herself, for example. But it's
spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah. And we actually went and see this last week in the cinema. There was a special 4K edition. We were going to see it at the Prince Charles Cinema. And after seeing that, I actually decided I like it even more than I liked it before.
Why?
I don't know. I think it was watching it with an appreciative audience, with everyone, and I was thinking, I
was actually surprised. It was quite busy in there. Because I have heard of this film from years ago.
Yeah.
But it's not really a well-known film with a lot of people. It ain't like a mainstream kind of...
Yeah.
But it's more like a cult film.
Yeah, if you asked most people, name 5 Martin Scorsese films, you'd be hard-pressed for any of them to have mentioned this.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this. I done like a quick top 10 in my head. Like I looked down on IMDb and I looked at all these other films. I think this is my second favourite Martin Scorsese film.
Oh, is it?
After Goodfellas.
I know you'd come into this quite late in life, didn't you, this film?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those films...
Because I'd seen it years ago and I had it on video, so it would have been at home.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I never...
Maybe I had it with a video case that I showed you before. You know, it's the better of the posters. It's
his face.
It's him in the middle, and it's sort of him looking all normal with the three of the women looking normalish on this side, and then it's all them all dishevelled on the other side. It's like
I don't remember that at all. So I'll quickly tell you my top 10. So from 10 to 1, The Departed, Shutter Island, King of Comedy, Casino, Cape Fear, Wolf of Wall Street, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, After Hours, and Goodfellas.
He's done some brilliant films, hasn't he?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know he'd done all them.
Yeah.
I know Martin Scorsese, but I wouldn't have known like many films that he's done.
Yeah. The ones that didn't make it: The Irishman, Gangs of New York, Bringing Out the Dead, Mean Streets. He's consistently
brilliant.
good. Oh yeah,
They're all good films.
Most people regard him as like the greatest living director. It's a toss up between him and Spielberg for me, because Spielberg's done, equally brilliant stuff.
So do you reckon there was a lot of people went to this thing because of
Scorsese?
Because it was Scorsese, so they're probably thinking it was going to be something...
Well, when we watched it last week? No, I think the majority of people would have gone because they knew the film. This was the inspiration for an episode of Ted Lasso called Beard After Hours, which I knew when I was watching Ted Lasso with Mum, we binge watched the series. When he got to that episode, it's a weird episode. It focuses on one character who's not the main character. He's just one of the characters, and him desperately trying to get home, but in London. And I thought, this is very much like After Hours. And I realised afterwards when it was called Beard After Hours. Another little reference to one of his other films, Griffin Dunne, obviously who produced this, American Werewolf in London. When the police officer confronts him at the subway, you hear him say off camera, "There must be a full moon tonight," which was a reference to American Werewolf in London.
He purposely done that?
Yeah.
Or is it okay?
But what I like about the film is I've been in those scenarios. Like loads of people, especially when you're younger, you've been in scenarios where you go out for the night or you've gone somewhere and your night ends up completely different to how you pictured it. And sometimes when, like I've multiple times when I've gone out, for example, I've gone out with like my cousin midweek on a Wednesday. We went, oh, let's go have lunch. Next thing you know, we've had a few drinks, we've gone to a pub, we're playing pool, we get drunk, we're hassling a band, we end up in a nightclub, vomiting. It's crazy when this event.
You don't plan it, yeah.
Yeah. Or other times where you're just in London and next thing you know, it's like 7 in the morning and you think, I can't believe I've been up all night long and I'm desperately trying to get home. And this is back before they had the night tube as well.
Yeah.
And you're stuck out in like Bethnal Green with a salt beef burger in your hand thinking, oh God. But it's...
Bible shop has come in handy.
But I mean, for us, those events usually you think, wow, what a crazy night. For him, I think the way this film ends, with him ending up back at work, that's like the ultimate insult. Having to then sit through an 8-hour shift while you're completely drained. You've just had the worst night of your life. You haven't had all night. He was desperate to get asleep. Like when he goes in people's houses and he's like, "Can I just lay down for a little bit? I'm really tired. Do you mind if I have a little sleep?" He starts, complete strangers' houses. And I felt like it before when I felt so knackered and I thought, I could just go to sleep like that.
That's a horrible feeling.
So to end up...
Just want your own bed and you pay anything for it. Did you know the original ending as well?
One of the endings had Paul hiding inside the woman. He climbs inside the woman. The woman, that June woman. He climbs up inside June's womb and she gives birth to him out on the highway.
Well, that's just a bit weird.
Yeah, I think what I like about the film is, okay, the bit with him in paper mache is a little bit out there, but by that point you're on board with it. It's mostly realistic, whereas that is like, okay, that's just sort of very avant-garde.
That takes it completely to a different dimension.
Yeah, I
know. The one that I'm talking about is that apparently the original ending was him being left in the caster blast and basically just dying.
Dying?
Yeah. He's like trapped in that thing because he can't speak or move, and he literally just dies.
No, that's horrible.
Yeah, but it was his dad. I think it was Martin Scorsese's dad that said, "No, you can't end it like that." Martin Scorsese could not figure out a suitable ending, so he asked Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, and Terry Gilliam to watch the film so they could come up with opinions of how the film should end.
Yeah.
Because that so obviously his original ending, he's gone through all that and then he's just going to die.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, yeah, the thing is, the film is a dark comedy, but that's too much.
Yeah.
Then it's just really depressing. And you like him as a person. I mean, some of the things he does, you think it's a little bit selfish. Some of the stuff, obviously he goes to the other side of town thinking he wants to get his end away, and then when he starts suspecting that Rosanna Arquette's character might be a burn victim, he just sort of deliberately gets angry with her so he can quickly run out of the place, which is a bit cowardice, but you can also think he's thinking, oh, sod it, I don't know this woman, I'm never going to see her again, I'm just getting out of here. Not thinking the consequence is then going to be she, who's clearly like in a bad place, she ends up taking her own life. Teri Garr's character plays the last train of Clarksville on the record. She actually starred in the film Head from 1968 with the Monkees. So I like the Monkees, but that's actually one of my least favourite Monkey songs. I do like the soundtrack to this film.
I don't remember the song.
Take the last train to Clarksville and I'll meet you.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's like very Beatles, isn't it?
The Monkees were created.
It's like the British, Beatles were British.
Yeah, the American. They're American.
Oh, they're American, the Monkees.
Yeah, so the American...
cool shit.
One of them's British.
Oh,
the little one.
David Jones,
yeah. He was English, but it was like a manufactured band.
Trying to be like the Beatles.
Basically like how you'd get One Direction. And they'd just done it just to sort of capitalise from the Beatlemania. It was called One Night in Soho, and it was based on the script by Joseph Minion, although originally called Lies after a 1982 monologue by Joe Frank. It finally became After Hours after Scorsese made his final amendments. But they ended up having to do a settlement for him, because the first 30 minutes is almost verbatim, including Paul meeting of what this guy had done in his monologue. This guy had done a monologue saying about this terrible night, including him meeting her in Marcy in the deli, the bagels and cheese paperweights, Paul calling Marcy the same night, losing his cab money out the window when it flies out the window, Marcy being raped by a former boyfriend and falling asleep while he was raping her, her being married to a man overseas and his unusual sexual quirk, the Wizard of Oz, because whenever he comes, he says, "Surrender, Dorothy."
That's right, yeah.
So that was based on an actual guy who used to do that. But Joe Frank, who came up with that monologue, ended up filing a lawsuit and was paid handsomely in the settlement.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese described the film's screenplay as being like a Chinese puzzle. Because obviously it's all
over the place.
All over the place, yeah.
But it all intertwines.
Yeah.
I like the connections in it. You notice the connections more each time you watch it, but obviously each person is connected to the other people there.
Yeah.
And like when the barman is literally about to sort of help him and he gets the phone call that Marcy's killed herself. And he's like, I can't believe it, my girlfriend's killed herself.
And it's his girlfriend, yeah, exactly.
And he's thinking, God, I don't want, I can't obviously reveal what I know because you'd murder me.
Yeah.
The $20 that he loses from the cab is equivalent to $57 today.
Oh, cool, shit, it would be, yes. 85, isn't it?
Mm.
So it's like a lot of money he's lost.
That would have kept him. That would have sorted him out for the night. He's obviously thought, right, $20. I'll get, because he says, can you break a 20? And the cab driver says yes, and then it goes flying out the window.
And then at the end, when he does get a 20, and he gives it and he says, hey, I've got the money, and the cab driver takes it, goes, right, thanks, now see how you like it, and drives off.
I watched some of the deleted scenes as well.
I watched them just before you came, and I think that's quite good, like the bit with Catherine O'Hara screaming up the stairs and all that, and I thought it just sort of... I don't think they would have taken away from it at all. All of them deleted scenes would have just added to it and added to the confusion of it. I don't know why they weren't put in, because sometimes you can look at a scene and go, well, I can see why that's not in there. But the deleted scenes, when I watched them, literally as you was coming around today, I was looking at them and I thought, that's actually quite good. That adds to it. That adds to that character. That adds a little bit more confusion to it, which is what you want. You just want even more confusion.
Yeah. And like that Dick Miller, who's only really got a small part in the existing film, because he works in the first diner. He goes, it's on the house. It's after hours.
Yeah. And
she blows him a kiss and he catches it.
Yeah.
So he's looking, thinking, well, who's that guy? You've been shagging him? Don't know. It's when he talks to him afterwards, and he goes, oh, how's things going with her? And he's like, oh, it's not. He goes, oh, well, you're just the kind of guy who she'd really like.
Yeah.
Which makes it worse that he's...
It makes her character. It fleshes out all these characters a little bit more, which is quite good. And the thing is, I think there's only like 10 minutes worth of deleted scenes, but the film itself was actually 45 minutes longer. So what else was there? This is another thing, when you think, especially if you love a film so much, and it was all cut to an extra 45 minutes, so all these scenes would have been in it, and there also would have been like another 35 minutes worth of scenes, maybe different characters, maybe different things. I would love to have seen that, just to sort of see the mentalness of it, and I wonder why it was cut down so much. But I mean, it's a good film anyway. It's a good film anyway. But
because it might have been for pacing. Because the other thing is, when films at that time, Martin Scorsese, he'd had a couple of flops. King of Comedy didn't do great. This is another reason he couldn't get Last Temptation of Christ funded. So if he's going to make this, how studios sometimes look at films, they look and think, well, if you can make it a little bit shorter, that means we can show it 6 times a day rather than 5, and then we can make more money. And I mean, in fairness, there was quite a lot of events in those deleted scenes, like that John Heard saying to him, well, you can stay at mine tonight, which then shows what a nice character he is. I mean, really, all the characters he comes across, they're not
nice.
They're not nasty. They're a bit crazy.
Yeah, some are a bit mental, but there's not no nasty people in there. Like usually you've got there's the villain. There's no villains in it.
No.
They're just a bit mentally deranged, a lot of them.
I mean, that Catherine O'Hara, she's clearly her character's like a strong-willed woman, but she's having a laugh with him at first.
Yeah.
Now she's doing that, being really annoying when he's trying to take the number. She doesn't know what a night he's had that he suddenly snaps, and then she's thinking.
But her on the stairs, the deleted scene, you would have sort of looked and thought, bloody hell, she's a bit mental.
Patzak, please. Patzak on Mulberry Street, Manhattan.
5, 8, 6, 2,
Don't.
9,
Don't.
3, 8, 0.
Now I have forgotten the number. What is wrong with you? Are you all right?
It had a limited release on 39 screens, grossing $519,253 in its first weekend, and the exit polls indicated a positive response from moviegoers aged 19 to 25, which I would have thought that is the age that you're most likely to experience something like that. When you're younger, just discovered expendable incomes. You just started making a living, and you know, like when you're older, you're less likely to go out and be frivolous with your money. Go out on a night out and being stuck out somewhere.
Yeah. Catherine O'Hara and John Heard appeared briefly in the same scene. They would later be cast as the parents in the Home Alone movies.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you see him, like when he goes to the cafe with him, the diner, and he's saying, look, these people are after me. He goes outside and bumps into them.
Outside,
and you see him point and go, oh, he's in there.
Yeah.
And you think, he's giving him in. But he had to run because he'd already read in the newspaper about this vigilante mob beating someone to death.
Yeah.
So he's genuinely scared for his life.
Yeah.
It was Steven Spielberg actually suggested adding scenes of the angry mob.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's nice, you know, it's quite nice in a way to think like Scorsese, De Palma, Spielberg, they're all like mates.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, this is what I'm working on, what do you think?
Yeah.
And they'd go, oh, why don't you do this? Yeah, it's a good idea.
And they've probably given little ideas to each other, you know, like that's helped each of their films over the years, you know.
Yeah. But this was originally to be directed by Tim Burton, After Hours, which would have been it would have been before Beetlejuice. But he stepped aside once Scorsese showed an interest, which I think Griffin Dunne probably would have thought, oh yeah, Scorsese, because despite his flops, by that point he had made Mean Streets, Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, so he would have thought, no, it's in safe hands with him. And also Scorsese is like a child of New York. He loves New York and he loves doing films about New York and setting them there. So this shows a part of New York he hadn't really sort of covered that much.
Yeah, it's a good idea for a film, and I like the twists and the turns. And as I say, no one really gets hurt properly.
Well, she
kills herself. She does kill herself, yeah. But they're all just sort of floating through the night, and you get weird people floating around at night. You know, like that's when everyone seems to come out to play. So,
no, it is. But that's a good point. You find people like this are more gravitated to evening. You know, I've come across people like this, and you think that's a quirky character. Like even like her flatmate, blatantly just walking about in her bra and like smoking, her artist friend.
Yeah.
And I think when he turns up and she's like giving her a massage, part of him's thinking, oh, I might get away with her, but then she just falls asleep on him.
Yeah.
But then obviously she's got her fella who she's with, Will Patton, who's like, he's a bit intimidating.
Yeah,
but
there was an extra scene with him in it as well, wasn't it? And he's untying all her bandages when she's all wrapped up, and they're like doing a bondage thing. So that was a little extra scene with him in it.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch the extra scenes. I mean, they're on YouTube, so I would recommend watching them because they're quite good. Also, a technique known as end slating was used to capture Paul's reaction as he enters the nearly vacant Club Berlin. Right before filming, Griffin Dunne went to a bar around the corner and ordered drinks for all the customers, and then ran out without paying. The scene opens on him immediately after this had happened.
I suppose it would put you on edge a little bit. You think, God, am I going to get in trouble?
So
for
he
that?
literally, he'd just done that. He'd ordered the whole bar. I thought, poor bar people though. Poor people that own the bar. I hope that they would have gone back and paid it after.
Yeah, I think they would have.
You know, because that is a bit naughty, but funny.
I like the music in it as well, and it was. I know with Goodfellas, which is still my favourite Scorsese, he used almost exclusively existing songs to sort of soundtrack the film. It's like every scene in Goodfellas is like accompanied with a song from that era, or whatever. And it's like this was almost a tester for it because he had a score by Howard Shore, but then it also had songs punctuating throughout the film. So very like whether he's in the diner and he's playing something, or when you see Cheech and Chong, they're playing some sort of like Mexican themed music.
Yeah.
You know, or then when he's with the artist at the end and he plays that song, Is That All There Is? But I do really like the score by Howard Shore, who he helped form Blues Brothers. Howard Shore. He's also done the score for Lord of the Rings, Spotlight, Eastern Promises, The Departed, History of Violence, Copland, The Game, Ransom, Philadelphia, Silence of the Lambs, Big, The Fly, Dead Ringers, Mrs. Doubtfire. He'd been involved in
a lot, isn't he?
And this one in particular, what I like about it is he sets it all to a ticking clock. So it's a and it's very subtle. It's not over the top sort of, but it's very distinctly 80s. You couldn't do it in any other decade, but early 80s. kind of sort of weird, eerie sounds that he uses. There's each track, I think there's 4 of them, 4 versions of the score are named after different times. So there's the 9 p.m, midnight, 3 a.m, and 6 a.m, which obviously take place throughout the night. So it gives you an idea of when his misadventure starts. So it starts about 9 o'clock in the evening, and it doesn't end until he goes to work the next day.
Yeah. In the coffee shop where Paul meets Marcy, there's an elderly couple sitting at the table, and that was the director's mum and dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know his mum's in Goodfellas. His mum's plays Joe Pesci's mum in Goodfellas, the one who brings out the painting and goes, "Oh, look, I've got this painting."
Oh, okay. That's cool. Martin Scorsese told Griffin Dunne to refrain from sex and sleep during filming to make a more realistic feeling of paranoia.
Yeah, I thought he was really good in it, Griffin Dunne.
He is good. He is good. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's the only film I can really sort of relate to him in, apart from American Wolf in London. I wouldn't be able to name any other films. As I say, well, obviously, Who's That Girl? But then I forgot he was in that. And My Girl, and I thought he was in that.
Yeah. But I think...
They wouldn't know his name.
No.
I don't think a lot of people would know his name.
But I think across the board for the cast in this, they are all people, none of them are A-listers, but they're all people who, the vast majority of people, film goers would go, if you name their favourite film, chances are one of their actors are in this.
And you know, and also you'd look and you go, I know their face from somewhere, I know I've seen something with them in.
Yeah.
Years ago it drove you mad, but now you've got Google, so that's all right.
And IMDb.
And IMDb,
so exactly, so someone would go, oh, Rosanna Arquette, she's in Pulp Fiction, I love Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Or Catherine O'Hara, she's in Beetlejuice, I love Beetlejuice. Or John Hurt, Home Alone, or whatever, you know, he's all these, they're always people in films.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a single actor in this cast who I don't like.
No.
They've all done stuff which I enjoy, and I've enjoyed them in it. So it's nice, it's almost like a sort of greatest hits kind of thing, sticking all these actors in it.
It's only about an hour and a half the film, isn't it? Yeah.
I like that sometimes. So I don't mind long films, but sometimes like a film.
I would love to see the original cut though. As the same in most films. Like just to look and just to see, like, was it better?
Yeah.
Does it elaborate on the story that you already know, or is it just going to be a filler? Is it basically just sort of like full of fillers that you think, well, that could be cut, and is that the reason why it was cut? You know, so...
But like you said, like you watch the deleted scenes, and
Yeah.
there's no bits where it's just him sort of standing there in the toilet. It's him, it's something that moves on to something else.
Yeah.
And I like these films where set over one night, or it could be just set in one evening or one night or one day, and one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, and it just keeps going and going and going. Yeah. And rather than sort of taking a break and then it comes back the next day, you know, and you think, okay, well, I've lost momentum. This is just constantly, and you start relating to him, especially as it's getting worse and worse, and you've got the mob chasing him, and you think, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah, you just feel so sorry for the poor bloke. No, it's a good film though. It's a good film.
Actually, I just realised there is another death in it, because he witnesses a woman kill her husband, doesn't he? There's a bit when he's hiding from the mob.
Right when he goes, I bet I'm going to get blamed for that as well now.
Scorsese was quoted as saying, I thought it was a whole metaphor for the way we are living and for what I went through in LA trying to get The Last Temptation made.
But he's proud of this film still though.
Oh yeah.
He ain't sort of going on.
Oh no, he is proud of this film, and I see a recent interview in front of an audience. Edgar Wright invited him onto stage, and they spoke about other things, but it was mainly about After Hours they was talking to him about. And he was
likes that because he probably doesn't really get many people asking after all the massive lists of films that he has done, and he probably gets talked to death with all the others, and thinks, well, I've said this so many times. Having a story like this, having a film like this brought up, it sort of takes him back to like near the beginning, and
Well, it's much more important than people realise. It's one of his most important films because, again, at this point, he was on the downward spiral. He was struggling to get Last Temptation of Christ made. He thought, oh God, is this it? Is it my time is over? And he made this film. He felt a lot of pressure off him because he felt like he'd found his mojo again. He found it. So and you can see from some of the camera moves when it's like the camera's spinning around him and stuff, you can see he's actually having fun with the production. And the way he shot the film, and with the cast who was involved, everyone was involved, he felt much more relaxed. He actually enjoyed filmmaking again, whereas some of his previous ones leading up to it, they were so heavy, so much pressure on him to sort of you got to do another Taxi Driver now.
Yeah.
And like he done New York, and everyone's going, what are you doing with that? And he done Raging Bull, and he thought, okay, I've saved it, but that was so much effort to make Raging Bull, and you got all this serious acting, serious stuff. This is a lot more sort of laid back fun, and getting to do a comedy sort of. And then from the critical acclaim of this, he then started building up again. So he's done Colour of Money, Temptation of Christ. As soon as he hit Goodfellas, that's it. He was sort of solidified.
Sorted.
So IndieWire placed it at number 5 for Best Martin Scorsese film. Entertainment Weekly, and this is as recently as March this year, put the film at number 2 of Martin Scorsese films, which matches mine.
Okay.
Forbes put it at number 3 for Martin Scorsese films.
So was it? I can't think. Was it popular when it came out then?
No, it was mildly. It was.
Because I came across it by accident, I think, years ago. But I did buy it. I remember the case. That's how I know I had it. So it's unusual that you never actually see it, because it would have been in the childhood home for years. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I think by the time sort of I was really getting into films, say like the 90s, he had his 3 biggest films was Taxi Driver, Raging Bull and Goodfellas. And when you do a huge film, sometimes these smaller ones get lost by the wayside. No one thinks about them.
Yeah.
But I think over time, the longevity of it, some people, like some films which were big at the time, now look back and people go, like, Gangs of New York's often slagged off now.
Yeah.
People go, well, that was a bit of a misstep.
Yeah.
You know, Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's a really long film, isn't it, Gangs of New York?
Yeah, it was very.
It's about 4 hours or something like that. It's really long.
Well,
or 3 hours, something maybe. I don't know.
Well, he is one of those films that he was wanting to, like Temptation. It was one of those films he was wanting to make for a very long time, and he was waiting for Daniel Day-Lewis. He really wanted him to play Bill the Butcher, he's great in it as Bill the Butcher, but Cameron Diaz and Leo DiCaprio just seem a bit miscast in it. And the whole film just seems more. It's like a much more harder effort. Well, you got Casino, which is like very much like Goodfellas, but unfortunately, because it's so much like Goodfellas, it's always going to pale by comparison. People can go, well, it's not as good as Goodfellas, but very few things are. So I like that the film's at night. I like that it's raining. I like that it's deserted streets. It was actually shot in New York. They shot it like in the middle of the night, these certain streets, and like I heard from Scorsese in his interview with Edgar Wright, he said, I loved it. I was going down to Soho, and those streets were genuinely that empty at night, and you think how eerie that would have been.
And in the 80s as well.
Yeah.
In the 80s. Also, it's not very 80s. It's an 80s film, and this film talks about 80s, but it's not really classic 80s film, because you don't really see nothing really 80s in it. Like, he goes to her apartment, and that's not really necessarily 80s, that's just like an arty apartment. That club he goes to, a bit bondagey. The little bar he goes to, the cafe bar where the
some
bloke
of the fashions
some
are
of it
80s, like Catherine O'Hara looks very 80s, her fashion. But then John Hurd in the bar, that's more like 50s almost. And even the barmaid with her
like
beehive.
60s with her beehive, yeah. So it's a bit weird. It's all over the place. Maybe that's something to do with it as well. Maybe they sort of purposely sort of try to sort of make each destination feel a little bit completely different from the next. Because there's also that cafe thing where Marcy takes him, where that man knows her. You know, it's like that's sort of a bit old-fashioned, modern-y kind of place. There's loads of them kind of places now. I'd love to go to one of them sort of things. It's open all night. It's like they're like sort of chrome usually. They're like a diner. And it's just someone sitting in it, and it's like you don't see things like that. And I don't know if they have things like that in America. They must do still.
I'm sure they do. Well, I'm going.
You're going to sort of sit and you go there like till 3 a.m, and there's like 2 other people in there or something, and you just think, I just like that. It just makes you. It feels like you're in a film.
Well, when I go America in a few months' time, I'm purposely thinking I'm making the most of this. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm wide awake, I'll be going on my phone looking for places that are open, and I'll go there. If I have to walk there, if I have to drive there, I don't care. If it's I'd love to go to those all-night diners. So I will keep an eye out for
places where they're all playing pool and all that.
Yeah.
There's like a little Jodie Foster running around and all that, dancing around the pool tables. Like in The Accused.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I want
No, actually, maybe not. It's one of them. Like them divey kind of places like that. Not necessarily she's going to get chucked on a pinball machine and all that, but...
No.
Right, IMDb, this got 7.6.
Okay, yeah.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, it got 90% by the critics
Yeah.
and 87% by the audience. That's really good.
That is good.
That is really good.
Yeah.
And the budget was 4.5 million,
Yeah.
and it made 10.6 million. So 85, that's pretty good.
That is good.
It's more than doubled its money.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that was After Hours.
Yes.
If you've watched it, if you've listened to this and you haven't seen the film and you don't mind that we spoil it, watch it. It is a good, it's a fun film. And yeah, I highly rate it. So, what have you picked
I've picked something.
for next week?
I was going to pick something. I was going through a few like well-known ones, but I'm going to pick something completely different. Actually,
Okay.
I thought about it last night, and I think it'll be a good one for you to watch because you've not seen it, and so you can get your own back. Me and Bulworth the other week. Right, I'm going to pick the film Same Time Next Year.
Okay, yeah.
You've never seen that, have you?
Alan Alda.
Alan Alda and Ellen Burstyn. I think they're the only two people in it. It's I don't know if it's well known. It's a very good film. I like it. It's basically about a couple that meet each year.
They're having an affair, aren't they?
They're having an affair. They're both married, separate people. It starts in the 50s. Like there's a reason they have to go to this place every weekend each year, and each weekend they meet up. So it's all through their life, going through the 50s, the 60s, 70s, all that, 80s, and it sort of shows how their lives changed, how they changed. It's just it's an interesting concept, and I like the film. And I don't know if it's that well known. I think it probably is, but yeah, that's what we're going to do next week.
Okay,
Rather than do
fine.
something that you know.
No, good, because I've been wanting to watch that for a couple of years.
Because mum got. I first watched that because of mum. Mum liked it, and I watched it with her, and I thought it's a really good film. Actually, it's really well written, and it's. It'll be. I think that would make a good remake. I'm sure someone should remake it at some point. You know, because they could add more stuff to it. In fact, it doesn't need to be remade. It's, as I say, it's a good film, but I'm surprised it hasn't been remade. That's what I meant to say.
All right.
But yeah, okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and yeah, share this. share.
Share.
Share it. Share it to
it.
everyone. Just keep sharing. Sharing this.
Yeah.
So find us on TikTok. If you can leave us a review, that way people can find us. Just keep sharing. You know, it's all about share.
I'm going to put that many shares on there.
Yes, you will. Share.
Share and like.
Share and like, please. Yeah. And we will catch up with you soon. All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I can't let you in at the moment.
Will it be possible to be admitted at a more convenient time for the club?
It is possible, but not at the moment. Got any money?
Yes, I have money. Is that what you want? Money? Why didn't you just ask for that in the first place, man? Here, it's not much, but it's all I've got.
I'll take your money, because I don't want you to feel you left anything untried. You keep the quarter. You'll still have to wait a few minutes.
Come on. Why doesn't he have to wait a few minutes?
Tonight is Mohawk night. If you had a Mohawk, you could go in.